Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of my new podcast, Multifamily Chronicles. My guest today is Danny Cameron. Danny is a veteran of the multifamily industry with over 32 years of experience. But before we go into more details, I'd like to welcome you to the show, Danny.
Thank
And and I would like to for you to start by introducing yourself to the audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Danny Cameron. I've been in the industry for roughly 32 years. Doesn't seem that long. Doesn't time flies, especially when you get a little older. I started back in the early 90s, and I was in the apartment industry for a few years and about 10 years, and then left for a couple of years, went to the contractor side, and then was drawn back into the dark side of the apartment industry. Um, and love it, love it. I'm actually just left it again though, and I'm on the contractor side again after many years of being in the industry. But I really enjoy it.
Uh, Danny, I wanted to share a little bit with the audience. We had a conversation over the phone when we first, got to know each other, and you were saying something very interesting about how our industry has changed over the years. Would you like to share that with the audience?
Absolutely. I mean, so when I started like I said, in the early 90s, the I'll just tell you a scenario when I started. When I started, I went into it was in Orlando, Florida, project, was called Americana Villas, 1,000 units. And I did a little maintenance for my father-in-law and stuff. And I decided that I was going to get into the maintenance industry. My parents hated the idea. They're like, "Hey, listen, you need to be a lawyer," but I want to get in. I want to do something else. So I went up and applied for a job. A guy named Bob Kitchens was the maintenance supervisor. Bob was about 5'6", but mean as can be. And he came in and he interviewed me and he said, "What can you do?" I lied. I said, "I can do anything." And I mean, I had little experience with little plumbing, little stuff here and there, but I told him, I said, "I can do anything you want me to do." He said, I said, "What do you want?" He said, "HVAC. I can do it." He said, "Plumbing. I can do it. Tile. You got it." So he said, "Man, I'm going to give you a job." He said, "I'm going to give you 30 days. You're going to work all these positions. At the end of 30 days, if you do what you got to do, I'm going to hire you. If you don't, I'm not going to hire you." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Be here tomorrow." Think about that today. We don't hire people on the spot like that. Somebody doesn't walk in our door and we don't say, "Hey, the maintenance supervisor looking at him and say, 'You're hired.'" And so he's like, "You're hired." And for the maintenance supervisor saying, "If you don't work out, I'm gonna fire you," or whatever, that doesn't happen today either. So he gave me the job and I showed up and I had ran out into one of the stores and bought the cheapest tools I could buy to get by. And of course, what's the maintenance man's friend? Pair of channel locks, 6-in-1. You got it made. So I bought some tools and showed up to work. And he said, "All right, your first week you're gonna do air conditioning." I said, "Oh man." I said, where are they located?" "They're on the roof, 2-story building." I'm afraid of heights, much less have to carry a jug of Freon up a roof. So I grab my Freon, I grab the gauges, I grab everything, and I go up and I start looking at the units, realizing I have no idea what I'm doing. So I wrote everything down. I went and looked at all the units, wrote everything down, and I waited until lunchtime and I called my father-in-law, who had been in the maintenance industry for, probably 30 years equal. And I asked him, I said, "This is what these units are doing." And he told me, he said, "Okay, go to this one and do this, go to this one and do this, go to this one and do this." So I started, it started picking up. Everything was pretty much the same. Hey, if the fan ain't running, it's this, if this. So I got through my week of AC. Next week, they put me on plumbing. They asked me to change this. I go in and they said, "The faucet's leaking." He said, "You got to change the seat in the washer." I said, "What is a seat in a washer?" The guy said, "I thought you knew how to do this." I said, "I do know how to do it. I just was testing you." So I went in and ripped the faucet apart, made a huge mess, got it back together. And every week proceeded, did the same thing. And at the end of the time, the maintenance supervisor walks up, Bob walks up, and he said, "Man, you did a great job. We're keeping you on." He said, "Your tile sucks and your drywall sucks, but other than that, we want to keep you around." That's the kind of stuff that you don't see today. You know, I remember getting into my first maintenance supervisor role, and the maintenance supervisor was equal to the managers, and the maintenance supervisor ran the outside, and he communicated. We always communicated and everything else. But if you want to go up and give a guy a raise because he was doing a good job, you looked at the budget and you said, "Hey, this guy's doing a great job. I'm going to give him $1 an hour. I'm going to give him 50 cents an hour," or whatever. And that just made people happy because, you're working with them. You're sitting there, you're the maintenance supervisor is the one that works with these guys and sees what they're doing. So you can give them a few dollars, whatever, just something trivial made them happy. Or you can say, "Hey, you know what? Go home. You guys did a great job. Just go home. No permissions asked. No, none of that." If there was an issue, the regional maintenance guys were the ones that were over, that you talk to. If there was the maintenance supervisor need to get, in trouble for some reason, the regional maintenance guy came in and took care of it. The regional maintenance guys ran maintenance with communication both ways. That's not that way anymore. That's all changed, and now it's more the managers in charge, and which you understand they're ultimately in charge, but all the power that the maintenance supervisor had, he doesn't have. You just can't hire somebody. You just can't. You want to fire somebody, you're 20 steps into HR, and what do I got to do through HR to make this right? It doesn't matter how bad the person's doing. You can't. Your hands nowadays are tied. And it's over the years you see it evolving a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And now, I've seen it to where now, the maintenance guys, they, and I'm sure you did it, right? You scheduled your own apartments for turns, and, and for punches, and, you did all that stuff, and now how many properties you go into, and the supervisor, he isn't scheduling, or if he goes to place his orders, he's not placing his orders. I mean, that stuff made you feel good when you could do it, right? And that's kind of where where the changes have been is just in the shift of power and the shift of who's doing what, and the fact that when you were a maintenance supervisor, think about when you were first a maintenance supervisor. Man, that was the proudest day of your life. I guarantee you. You work up. Now you can tell the guys what to do. You got the control of the property.
Well, I think, I think it's very interesting when you first started, right? Describing the way it used to be, the handshake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything started with a handshake, and people were given a chance to begin with. Okay, hey, look, this is what you make it really. If you're gonna make it good, just like your personal example, right? We're gonna keep you on, and if it's not gonna work out, we're gonna let you go because it's not gonna work out. It's that simple. I think that simplicity needs to come back to a certain level, to a deep level, really, in our industry in general, because what I'm seeing myself is that you're right, when we don't have the right person in the right seat, it seems to take us a long time to make the change, to make the correction. If the correction means that the person it's not the right person for the job, and they have to be terminated, and if we're not really acting fast when we really make the assessment, and we know that there's no way the performance would improve to a good enough level to serve the business, it's detrimental. It's detrimental to the business. It's detrimental to the rest of the team members, because in the meantime, while that person is not performing, they had to pick up slack. Their workload increases, right? And also they get frustrated too, right? Because if someone works harder, or they produce significantly more than that person, they're going to look at the person and say, well, I'm producing like 3 times more than this individual. Where is the balance right here? So it's very, very interesting that you're bringing up those things. I hope that we're being watched by individuals, by professionals in management, and they find this way of doing business something that will help them in their current situation in order to make things work. Because we're hurting a lot as an industry, and I think these are great pieces of advice, like going back to the basics.
Right. One thing you brought up, and and we're us talking, was you brought up company culture, and you brought up the culture of how things are and stuff. If we don't change the culture, and we don't go back to the basics, like you said, and say, hey, we understand that the manager is ultimately responsible, but in a roundabout way too, that maintenance supervisor that's out there turning that apartment and having to get that apartment ready, and when that occupancy drops, where is the first person they go to? What's the first thing they go and they look at? Whether the apartment looks good, whether whether people are moving out because their work orders aren't getting done. They look to the maintenance side. So we got to give that shift a little bit back and give it back to the maintenance supervisors, and give the power a little bit over to the regional maintenance guys to oversee those guys. And another example, I was at a site the other couple months ago, and I was talking to the guy, and he said, the maintenance supervisor, and he said, yeah, they just hired me this new guy. And I looked at him for a minute, and I was kind of shocked and blown away, right? Because I'm like, you didn't interview the guy? And he goes, no, the manager brought him in and told me he's starting. And that just kind of that really blew me away, because never in my years was that something that was there. So we got to change the culture and the way we're doing things. And this podcast that you're doing is great. It kind of, maybe people will see it and say, hey, look, man, they're right. This is an eye-opening. Maybe it's not all about money in this. So
I wanted to say a couple of things, Danny, right? You're absolutely right that we're seeing a increased level of managers being involved on a maintenance side. But I do wanted to say though that I personally never had this experience, because I think all the managers that I work with looked at me as a person that was how would I say?
they trusted you. They
Trusted me. Not only trusted me, but also see someone that is capable to do the job. Okay, and I'm going to say this, right? Part of the reason is really on our guys, because they don't give the managers that type of confidence. They don't walk around with confidence of executing and taking care of business. Therefore, managers don't want to leave things go sideways, so they're getting involved. In all reality, I think that no manager, no person in the world really wants to do their own job and part of somebody else's job. So
no,
I really think that
I
part of
completely
the
agree.
reason, yeah, I think that part of the reason is really on our service managers too, for them to just kind of be the person that inspires trust and say, I could do this. Not only say, but actually prove that they could do it. So
Right.
make managers feel comfortable that I got this, right?
Well,
You don't need to be involved.
yeah, no, I agree with that, but what's happened now is, the guys the guys that have, the maintenance supervisors that were in the industry that could do the job, that were doing the job and able to do the job. Now they have, you read the post all the time on Facebook, and what is it, apartment maintenance and all that. You read the post all the time. Man, I do this, I'm leaving, I'm going somewhere else where, I can do my job, and that's it. The problem is now that we've had such a shift of all these good maintenance supervisors leaving our industry that and we're having to we're having to promote these guys that it used to take years to be a maintenance supervisor. I mean, it seemed like it was never coming. You're a tech forever, and once you did move up, you were there for a reason. You knew how to run it. Now that with the shift, we're promoting techs to maintenance supervisors within a year or so that do not have the experience. So yeah, the managers are having to take over more, but if we can entice people to come back and say, "Hey, look, we're going to shift this a little bit," and then I think that would help change things, and that would stop that pushing people into positions that they shouldn't be there, man. They can, some of them, they have no HVAC knowledge, but yet they're a maintenance supervisor. That's not what we need to get if we're going to change, and that's not what the sites need and the managers need to feel confident, about their properties.
Danny, this is a phenomenal point that you just made, right? It's the quality of the talent pool that we have for service managers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. We have been bleeding people, quality people, to other industry, to the trades. I've done a lot of comparative pay search between our industry, what our jobs are paying in a certain market, and what other industries are paying. And you're right, we are behind. So when you're looking at service technicians in our industry getting paid $2, $3, $5 less an hour than if they were to work for an HVAC company, for an appliance repair company, for even, we're neck and neck with Costco warehouse, believe it or not, in my area where I live, in Atlanta area, in Atlanta market, we're neck and neck. So for entry level positions, we're hiring at the same rate as, we would, as Costco would hire someone at a warehouse. And then think about this. Those people don't have to pull call on call. It's a huge deal for anybody in our industry. Anybody that ever worked maintenance in our industry knows that one of the main, I guess, things that makes the job, really stressful and difficult, it's being on call. And why would someone pick a job that requires on call? When you go on call, a lot of times, a lot of companies don't compensate for the on call. In other words, the phone rings, you get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you spend on the job 2 hours. You get back home at 4 o'clock in the morning, you got to get ready to go on your regular shift, and you go to work and you work like 5 hours. And after 5 hours worked on a regular shift, manager says, well, you're gonna have to go home earlier because you had those hours that you work between 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And then there's no incentive for the guys. They get up in the morning, they don't get a good night's sleep, they work for, obviously for the company benefit, and when it comes for them to be compensated, they're being sent home because overtime is not allowed, the extra time. And this makes it very, very hard, very difficult for us to stay competitive and keep the talent. So you're making a phenomenal point about the level of knowledge, the skill set when it comes to maintenance in general and service managers in particular. So absolutely right. People get promoted, they don't have time to develop themselves as managers or potential managers. Community managers have no choice but to step in and take over.
Right. And to your point about salary, you said that about Costco. So last year I spent a lot of time in Texas, and I pull into not Whataburger, but In-N-Out Burger, or one of those, one of the bigger chains down there, and there's a sign, starting salary $16 an hour. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at that sign and I'm going, you know what? We got techs working at $16 an hour. They can come here and make that. And these techs are, a lot of them, the ones that are trained, and there's we got some people that's not well trained in our industry now, but man, we still got some phenomenal maintenance guys, and some of them have never even been, just hasn't been recognized, and some of them they're a tech on a site that could possibly be a maintenance supervisor, but they're not getting moved out of that spot, because if you take that person out of that spot, what's going to happen? Now they might get somebody in, and that property might not run as smooth and as good. So that manager doesn't want that tech to go very far. So he's not moving up in salary. So you got to get we got to get this we do got to get the salaries up and be competitive um with the HVAC guys, and competitive to what if they're a basic AC guy and they're just out and they're a ride along guy, and so they're not really a full tech, they're just a helper. Then what are they making? Let's average the salaries of the plumber and everything else, just to average and put it together and see what they're making. Entice people. The on-call thing, man, you don't know the world until you're sitting back and you walk in the door and you pull your shoes off and you sit down and you got your plate sitting there of fresh hot food, and all of a sudden that pager goes off. And the residents, they don't want, some things you got to get up and you got to go right out there. And then you come back and guess what? The pager goes off again. You finally lay your head in bed and it's great. You're sitting there sleeping, and you hear that phone ringing, and I said pager because back in my day that's what we had. We started with a little beeper, and then we went to the ones that you could read that would post the message, and then we were really big when we started getting phones. But you that thing goes off, and man, it's terrible. And then the morning comes and you're sitting back, and you got to get up early and get out there to work, and you're dragging, and by the end of the week you can't wait to hand that thing over, or to have Callmax or whoever switch it over to the next guy. I mean, that's like, you run from it because you have no life. And I do see, I was always lucky. I never was in a situation where we didn't get paid for the overtime hours, but the compensation with the overtime sometimes isn't that great. When you get paid just from the time you get there to the time you leave, and it's say an hour, man, nobody wants to get off their couch to get paid, $20 or $40 to be out and unclogging a sewer drain or whatever. That's got to be figured in. And your point was of saying about some people aren't getting paid, they take their hours away. I mean, that's when you take the job and you do hear about the overtime, you're like, well, at least I have this overtime. That bumps my salary up, and you figure that in.
You're absolutely right. And I do a lot of research on my own, right? Of the industry in general. It's not just my personal experience, but I spend a lot of time on maintenance related groups on Facebook mainly. There's a lot of activity over there. And basically what the guys are saying, what our guys are saying is that, okay, we just want to be compensated. Okay, that's what we want. If we're on call, we're taking this on, it's part of the job. We do want to get paid for the time we spend. Like literally, instead being given what's called, I guess, comp time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is definitely something, an area that our industry will have to do better if we want to become competitive. It's not a matter of staying competitive. I think the gap is widening between us and comparable industries and the trades. So we have quite a bit to catch up, right?
Yeah, think about these guys that are out there on one person properties, and they're on call, nonstop every day of the year. At least some guys get a week or two off, but a lot of times then you're working Christmas, you're out there Thanksgiving. It's coming up. I love the holiday. You can tell I'm a big guy. I love to eat, but man, you get in there on Thanksgiving and nobody's stoves works and all their toilets are breaking. You're out on the site all day fixing stoves and toilets. You know, I mean, and you're not able to enjoy your day, you know, and I think that, you're talking about on call. I think it kind of rolls to the other thing we were talking about as far as burnouts, people burning out, and how do you stop it? When you got them on, when they're on call all the time, they got to get relieved. They got to at least feel that they're well compensated for it, so that they don't burn out and they're able to keep working every day, getting some sort of break.
You're absolutely right, and this is another topic that I want to discuss, the burnout. How do we, Danny? How do we prevent burnout? Your experience and your ideas. What would you like to share?
So, one thing is I always did it on site, and I think that this is where the maintenance supervisor has to be able to have the authority to do so. But I always, when I saw my guys, when we had a hard week, but yet we got everything finished, I tell my guys, hey, 2 o'clock, go home. Take the rest of the day off. You're getting paid for it. I didn't tell them go home when your clock out, and then I'd walk in and I'd tell the manager, hey, look, I let the guys go home. This has been a very hard week. Let's pay them. Give them that little bit of rest. I was with another company for a while. It was Richman Property Services, RPS, and they rolled something out that I thought was really cool. And it was after, I think it's after a couple of years. I don't know the exact details, but they give a 2 to 3 week sabbatical, paid sabbatical, to the guys. Now that's beyond your vacation. That's just to go do whatever you want to do. Just take that time off and relax. And we're coming into the millennial generation where there is a lot of these missions and different things where they take these sabbaticals and they want it. Bring in the sabbatical. Let's let the guys take off here and there. If everything's caught up and running, and you see they're struggling or that they're having a hard day, man, my guys would come in and be like, man, it was hard last night. On call was terrible. Hey, go take a break, relax, go home. If you relax and you decide you want to come back later, fine. If not, but give that to people. Give them something, so they're not there working all the time.
You're absolutely right, and I think I want to bring something up, Danny, and I like to hear what you think. The whole COVID situation, right? I think the whole COVID situation really changed the mindset of most people, right? Before COVID, if you think about it, everybody would be focused and only be worried about work, 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 work. Personal life outside work typically came in second, right? But most people were really worried about, spending the time on a job, do whatever it takes to get the job done. I think what we've seen during COVID and, even up to this day is that people start appreciating their life outside of work a lot more. They're putting a lot of price on flexibility, on being able to work from home. Of course, for you and I, for someone in maintenance, that's not really that's not really on the table, right? It's not really an option that we're maintenance and we're gonna work from home. We have to be present. But then people more and more are shifting towards, their mind is shifting towards, hey, I don't want to work this hard. I want to be able to do meaningful stuff. If my work is meaningful, I want to do it. If it's not meaningful, I'm not interested. I want to be able to spend important time with my family at the times and events that I want to be part of with my family. Family reunions, children's, my kids' games, whatever that might be, things that matter to them at personal level. They're not work related. And if we can really offer that type of flexibility, I think somebody else will. And it's a shift that's happening. Do you see that? Do you see this type of mindset shift? And then what where do you think this is going?
Absolutely. I mean, you think about, I think that, when COVID came around, I think that before COVID, everybody took for granted, Thanksgiving dinners, everybody being together, and going out to, have a drink after work with a bunch of friends and stuff, and going to hanging out at a baseball game or a football game. That was all taken away from us, like in one foul swoop. It was, everything was happening, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, everybody's locked down, can't go anywhere. People stopped going to even going to the grocery store. They started just ordering online, because they're like, we don't want to do this. Now things are starting to open back up. They've been without that. This Halloween, I commented to my wife. I said, I've never seen so many people out on Halloween. And because so many people are out there, the stores are now with Christmas stuff coming out on the shelves. Look at them, they're bare. People are now wanting to be together with their family, and so you're absolutely right. It's I don't want to work all the time. I need some time to myself. The bad thing is during COVID, the maintenance, whereas, unless you were in a corporate position, you were out on the site all the time. The maintenance guys had to come in every day to work no matter what, where the offices, a lot of them were shutting down. They were working remotely because they could work their leases, they could work their stuff virtually and that way. But the maintenance guys were on the site the whole time. And I think that that's one thing that like triggered in a lot of maintenance guys' heads. They're like, man, wow, these guys all gone and we're still here. We're still walking in these apartments, to fix this guy's air conditioner, and we're risking our lives, just like the nurses and the doctors and the EMTs and stuff. So I think that after that they're like, man, we want some freedoms. We too want to be able to take off and every now and then and be with the family, and maybe, like I said, the sabbatical thing, or maybe just the employers having, when they have the events that are, the yearly whatever party it is or whatever. Maybe taking and saying, hey, we're going to take the maintenance guys, or we're going to take these people, not just maintenance guys, everybody. We're going to take them to a baseball game. I know the company that that I was that I just left, Drucker and Falk, here in the Mid-Atlantic region. They took the whole family to baseball games. It's cheap. Let them all spend some time together, and let them learn about the people that they work with. And so when somebody comes home from work and says, oh man, Joey, you know what he did today? They know who Joey is, or they know who the leadership is that their person's working for. Let them go to a baseball game. Go out. Let them set a big thing out in the park, and play volleyball and barbecue and do that kind of thing. So that's kind of what where I think that we have to start loosening up at, not just work, 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 work. Okay, now we're going to buy you a pizza.
Yeah, well, if you read the comments online by, maintenance by our peers, the most hated thing that, they're talking about is being rewarded with free pizza. They absolutely hate for pizza. If someone in management hears this, please do not offer the maintenance guys pizzas. Like it is really, it's kind of like the boomerang effect. It has the opposite effect of, what you might try to accomplish, right?
Yeah, don't, you wouldn't go up and give a policeman a donut. Don't go give a maintenance guy pizza. Go get him. Go get some barbecue or some sandwiches or something. But most of the time, the maintenance guys, they walk in and they eat it. They tear it up. But man, they come in there like, pizza again. Okay, go do something a little bit different. Man, I used to on site. We had a grill in the maintenance shop, and we would bring in, people would bring in like meat or whatever. Lunchtime, we'd roll the grill out. We'd turn around and we'd grill during lunch, hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever. Everybody would come down from the office, and it gave kind of a time, that loose time, so there wasn't so friction. Because sometimes you got a little friction. Gave a little bit of team building time, and it wasn't pizza. It was something that we all like to eat.
Yeah, that's a great example, and it just kind of creates this the team environment, right? Everybody getting together, sharing, a piece of meat, joking, relaxing a little bit, loosen up a little bit. It makes all the difference in the world. It makes us look at, our peers, our workers, like just, other humans, maybe friends. It's super important to bring that back into the workplace.
You asked me about the changes earlier in our conversation. One thing is that you can't do it now, but it was after work. Either sometimes the whole site would just go out for Margarita Wednesday, and everybody would go up there. The site would pay for it, and everybody would just go in. They would drink whatever they drank, whether it was margaritas or not. They just drank and hang out and stuff like that. Or the maintenance guys used to get done from work, and they would they'd go get some beer, and everybody would sit back in the shop and drink a beer. And can't condone that nowadays, but that's how it used to be. A lot of everybody was buddies, and it was all a family. That's what it was. Life was about, being a family.
Camaraderie, very important. Danny, it's been an absolute pleasure having this conversation with you. I hope our audience will appreciate this conversation. A lot of great stuff. In closing, I like to give you the opportunity to maybe cover something that we haven't really during our conversation for the audience.
Well, the only thing I'd like to say, Adrian, is that what you're doing, I think is great, and I'd like to see more of this, across the board, and more people getting involved with this kind of stuff and talking about. You can't fix a problem without talking about it, and more people talking about it. I really, I know we've only spoke a couple times, and I see you on LinkedIn, and you're constantly involved and building a really good base of people, which I kind of wish 20 years ago I would have done the same. But I really admire that and appreciate it, and I really appreciate our conversation earlier. Hopefully we can get on again and have another one, and you go through a few more things, and hopefully we didn't say anything that we're gonna go down the road and somebody's gonna roll down their window and throw a bottle or a tomato or something at us. So, but I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing the changes that can be made by these conversations.
Well, I'm a strong believer of the fact that if you really want change, you have to become the change. You can't really expect it to start from somewhere else, or from someone else. Again, Danny, it's been a pleasure. It's been great having you on the show. Thank you very much for coming, and to our audience. If you took the time to watch us, thank you very much for watching. My name is Adrian Danila. I'm the host of the Multifamily Chronicles, and today was episode number 2 with episode number 3. I'm sorry, with Danny Cameron, and I hope you will stay tuned, and I hope you'll follow the podcast for the future episodes. Thank you again very much.
Thank you.